Call this meeting of the Board of License Commissioners to order. It has been traditional that we begin our meetings with pledge to the flag, followed by a moment of silence in memory of all those who have gone before us and made our country a great country as it is. It is strictly voluntarily. With that, Mr. Mulvaney.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, I would ask our attorney, Mr. Dixon, if he will call our first case 6429, please.
All right, case 6429, an application for the transfer of a Class B beer, wine, and liquor license to be issued to Troy Albin and Christine Albin for the use of Two Old Fools LLC, trading as The Nest at 84 East Main Street, Westminster, Maryland, 21157, in Election District 7. In the file of this matter, we have the following documents. A December 14th, 2022 letter from W. Bradley Bauhoff, Esquire, to Joe Vance. A December 30th, 2022 notice of public hearing for this case. A December 23rd, 2022 notice of public hearing for this case. There's something in the file from Tom Harris, Permits and Inspection, that states that the above referenced establishment does not meet the requirements of this office at this time. A stop work order was posted for this building, electric and plumbing work without permits. There's a December 12th, 2022 letter from Mark A. Depot, Director, Planning and Community Development for the City of Westminster. There is a response to Joe Vance's request to various state and local agencies from Lisa Staley, Health Department. This establishment does not meet the requirements of this office. See the attached memorandum. Approval for operation is pending plan review, final inspection, and licensing. There is a response to Joe Vance's request to various state and local agencies from Belinda Gassell, Collections Office. The above referenced establishment does meet the requirements of this office. And then there is an application and there's a December 2nd, 2022 letter from W. Bradley Bauhoff, Esquire, to Joe Vance. And then there's an application, and the application includes character references,
Yeah, that was at the sports complex on 97.
criminal background information,
No problems. No, it was well laid out.
purchase agreement, MVA records, workers' comp insurance, a menu, a floor plan, a lease. Articles of incorporation, SDAT information, plat plan and other licensed establishments, operating agreement, financial information, and management agreement. I would ask that the file be entered into evidence.
We'll accept that into evidence. This time, I would ask all those who intend to testify in this case, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by Ms. Vance.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You all may be seated. As we begin this case, the current owner, do you intend to sell this property to this applicant?
Not at this time.
Not at this time?
No, sir.
You should get him to state his name and address for the record.
I would, I'm sorry, I would ask that he be put under oath before the board takes any testimony from this gentleman,
I just did.
He did.
He,
and called, and
he was sworn in. Please state your name and address and your relationship with the establishment.
Pietro Priola, and I live at 402 Baldwin Drive, apartment 402. Actually.
And it's your testimony that you do not intend to make this sale. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct.
With that being said, I see no reason why we should continue this case at this time.
first, for the record, Brad Balhoff, on behalf of the Albans, spelled B-A-U-H-O-F, I'd like to inquire. I know it's a preliminary issue, but I'd like to inquire of Mr. Priola, briefly.
You're not asking me any questions. The board can, but I'm not answering any of your questions.
Well, we're here for a hearing, sir, so he's a party, he's a counsel for a party in the case, and I think it would be appropriate.
Okay?
I certainly agree, Mr. Bob.
All right, Mr. Priola, you signed a contract with my clients to sell this business, is that correct?
That's correct.
You received a $10,000 deposit towards that purchase, isn't that correct?
Correct.
You now have come today saying that you are not going to sell the business to my clients, is that correct?
At this time, no, that's correct.
Why not?
Well, there's several matters. A couple of them is done by the board, that there's a stop work order on the property, actually on the deck itself. And then also, due to the fact that I've suffered some financial stress when Ms. Baines pulled the license, and then also not entering into a management agreement, which is part of the contract, basically, and the landlord is not entering into a lease. There is no lease. You said something that there's a lease signed by someone? You put that on record? There is no lease signed by the landlord itself. I met with the landlord yesterday, and he has not honored the lease that they basically talked about. There's no assignment of the lease.
Did you, in your meeting with the landlord, did you tell him that you were refusing to sell it to my clients?
No.
What did you tell him?
Basically, due to the fact that I can't pay him the money that I owe him, we cannot get out of the lease. So I'm financially liable to the lease until such time that I can do so, but then there's also some other matters that I'm not able to discuss here.
All right. Have you negotiated with anyone else to purchase this business since my client's contract with you was signed?
Not at all.
You're under oath, sir.
Not at all.
And you have this license because your qualifying resident is Teresa Barnes, is that correct?
That's correct.
You don't live in Carroll County, is that?
Yes, I do. I live in the county about 9 months out of the year. And I've resided in Carroll County for the last 3 years.
All right, so if Ms. Barnes withdraws her consent for her name to be on the liquor license, do you intend to still operate?
Ms. Bain's supposed to have wrote a letter to the board once the incident happened, that she pulled my license at 5 o'clock with, the inspector and also a sheriff's office, which was not allowed to do so. And then the board actually gave Ms. Baines a letter on regarding to, that she has to put it in writing 30 days prior for her to get off the license, which is part of the rules and regulations of the liquor board.
So, and are you aware that she no longer desires to be on the liquor license?
Oh, yes, I'm very aware of when she pulled the license.
All right. I have no further questions.
There is a copy of a lease within the application, but there is no signatures on the leases.
There is a form that the landlord fills out as part and parcel of the application where the landlord gives his consent. The landlord's done that. Apparently, from the time that we submitted the application until today, there's been some sort of, I'll say, sabotage put in place. And,
I'm sorry.
And we'll certainly get to the bottom of that. I've had my own separate conversations with the landlord. Regardless, we stand in a position here today where if a license can't be issued in such a state of flux, I understand that puts the board in a bad spot. Mr. Priola will have to answer for his breach in a different forum, but as far as today goes, I agree with the board's conclusion that we cannot have a license hearing when there's not going to be a sale, or at least at this time. I would like to put one more bit of testimony on the record if I could.
You may.
All right. Call Ms. Barnes to the stand. You may stand down, Mr. Priola.
Ms. Barnes, come to that microphone there. State your full name and address for the record, please.
Teresa Barnes, 2228 Cape Horn Road, Hampstead, Maryland, 21074.
All right. Ma'am, you are the license holder for this establishment, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've made it clear prior to today that you no longer wish to be on the license, is that correct?
That is correct.
Prepared any sort of writing that I can make part of this file that verifies your intention to be withdrawn from the license?
Yes, I do.
And do you have it with you now?
Yes.
May I have it? May I approach the clerk?
Yes, yeah.
The document that I'm handing to Ms. Vance is the letter that you referenced.
Yes.
Does the board have any questions of Ms. Barnes?
Counselor, Ms. Barnes, you have presented this letter as evidence that you wish to have your name withdrawn as the licensee.
That is correct.
That's correct?
Yes.
Any questions?
I'm just looking at the application, and Counselor, you said that the landlord,
For Ms. Barnes, yeah.
oh, I'm sorry, not for Ms. Barnes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. You may
That's
proceed.
okay. Can I'd just like to say that on November 4th, when I did go in and take the license, which was advised by my lawyer and with the exception with the liquor board, that is what the intent was to do, and to ask to get my name pulled off of the license, and my lawyer has been in contact to make sure that it was done, and I did not do that in any intention to hurt the business whatsoever. It was to actually get my name off of the license and to get the money that was owed to me from Pete for the wages that he started to withhold starting in July for credit card tips through when I worked the last day in October, as well as the other employees that also worked at the establishment that didn't get paid their wages, which is also the intent of why I stepped in to make a stand for not only myself, but everyone else that worked in the establishment, and to protect the community, because it's not a good name in the business and on the streets. So I did that to stand up for myself and for everyone else and the business and the community that I support. So, you know, in his defense, that it is put him in a financial struggle to allow them to have the business, I feel is really was not intended by myself, and it's actually what he did to us as employees and the community. So I really wish that you would consider the facts of what really happened and take my name off the license, because I do not wish to be a part of how the business that he is holding.
Ms. Barnes, thank you for your testimony. As you have presented that letter officially, that's official notice that you wish to have your name taken off.
Correct.
According to the rules, a written request must be made in order to have a licensee removed. And you have done that today, so with that, unless there's any other questions and so on and so forth, I don't think we can do anything else with this particular hearing today. The owner has expressed a desire not to sell to the client at this time. Therefore, unless we have some objections, this hearing for this particular case, 6429, is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's a couple.
What's his name?
I should be available.
No, no, the
Joe would be available.
This afternoon.
May I ask her?
8. Do you understand that that license is invalid within 30
30
days?
Yes, I do understand.
And that you will have to have another application, any changes?
Yes, yes, I do understand that. And as a matter of fact, I called Joe on Friday asking what the process itself, and I'm planning on putting an application in to be on the license.
Well,
I know, there's a deadline issue.
yeah, you're too late for the February hearing.
Right.
So March will be the earliest that you could get.
Well, I will be, of course, Brooks is going to be handling this from this moment on. He has been trying to handle all this, and he's failed, to try to get this thing solved. And, of course, now we finally got the letter, which we've been waiting for. So I do understand the obligation that we have, and then we go from there, basically. That's all I could, that's all I can say. What I'd like to add also is that one of the biggest reasons why I was selling, I was in stage 4 cancer. And my doctor had given me just a little bit of time, a couple of years. And as you guys know, as the board knows, I bought this place for my daughter, and I built it for my daughter. And then, I basically was under a lot of financial stress because I was an absentee owner. So regarding to Ms. Baines and a couple of employees that we owe money to, I do sympathize with that. But also Ms. Baines, there's other factors why Ms. Baines no longer was working for us, because Ms. Baines got fired from the place. She just didn't stop coming in. But anyway, I do understand about the obligations that I have, that also that Ms. Baines is going to be off of it in 30 days. But Brooks will be handling it, the application and everything else that comes forward.
Brooks Leahy?
Yes, Brooks Lane, yes, sir.
Okay, so you understand this procedure.
Yes, sir.
Well, we've got some time here before our next case is scheduled at 10:45, so we have some routine business to discuss.
Thank you to the board.
You have received a copy of the minutes, correct?
I have, yes.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes for the December 14th meeting of the board? Hearing none, they shall stand approved as presented. Under new business, we have a request for a one-day liquor license application for outdoor events by the City of Westminster for their Celtic Cantor and Irish Festival on March the 11th, 2023. The Wine Stroll on April 22nd, 2023. Beer and Barbecue Stroll on June the 17th, 2023. And their Oyster Stroll on October 14th, 2023. Apparently, there's going to be a lot of strolling on Main Street in downtown Westminster and a lot of eating.
Yes, this is,
And of all the things that are presented to us for situations like this, our chief inspector always volunteers to go to them because it's food and drink.
you're correct.
Are there any objections?
There are no objections.
Chairman, you are correct.
Okay, They all stand approved.
Even has preferred seating, I might add.
I'm gonna skip the next request for the time being. A one-day liquor license applications for outdoor event by the County Department of Recreation and Parks for a summer bash at Freedom Park on 6/23/23.
This is,
What kind of bash is that gonna be?
this is actually the second year they've had it. They had it last year. Inspector Pullen went to it last year. There was no problems. They're actually moving the location to Freedom Park. It was at the sports complex on 97 last year.
As the comment I just made, it's a different type of arrangement, and thus far, Brother Jim has to go to that, so.
But they have food there also, and music.
Any objections?
No objections.
Okey-doke.
Did you want to see this?
No, I don't see it.
Thanks, Tim.
The next item is a discussion of DUI reports, which Inspector Benfer has passed out.
As you can see, 2022 DUI reports, they're labeled by most per establishment. Johansson's had 11. New thing I added this year was the average DUI was 0.15 of all those DUIs. So the average drunk coming out of there was twice the legal limit. Manor Mount was second with 5 violations. Again, their average DUI was 0.15. We had a total of 39 DUIs in 2022, and the average DUI was 0.14. I make a recommendation that we have Johansson's and Merrill Mount come in on the board, explain
What was the average for 22? Point what?
0.014. It's on the last page. It's on the second page.
Oh, okay.
And 39 total DUIs, which is a little bit higher than previous years. And then the third page and fourth page are previous year DUIs.
Well, it's been less than a year since we have discussed this with licensees, right?
Correct.
However, we now have the 22 figures. These DUI reports include city and state police records.
Westminster, Carroll County Sheriff's Department, and Mount Airy, and Maryland State Police. The far column, the W is Westminster, then C is for Carroll County Sheriff's Department,
Right.
M is for MSP, and T is for Mount Airy.
But what I'm getting at is you've answered that this includes all the records that you have been made available of.
Correct, yes.
We certainly need Johansson's in here and somebody from Maryland Mallet. And I would request that when their appearance is made, that they not be made the same day.
Not the same day, or can it
Not
be at the same time?
Not the same,
Back.
not the same month and day.
Okay.
They be separate. Perhaps maybe we need to discuss this just a little bit more than what we normally do. Mr. Dixon, is there any type of education other than what we provide in some manner? This is an ongoing problem, and it seems to center around 8 or 10 establishments of the 168 licensees that we have in the county that, .15 is almost double. And
I don't,
as I look at the times on here, they're very late at night or early in the morning, whichever you want to call it, which is consistent with the Hansons and Marilyn Mallett. So perhaps we can have a discussion among the full commission, the board, as to how we're going to proceed.
Well, one thing we can offer that we couldn't offer before, and now both Jim and I are alcohol management trained, and you could make the suggestion that Johansson's and Maryland Mount have all their staff become alcohol management trained. It's a thought. I mean, I know you can't make it mandatory, but I don't believe you can. I mean, I think Tim's agreeing with me, right?
I agree. We can't make them. The rules say you only need one per the establishment, and that person doesn't have to be on duty, so we can't make them do it.
No, I understand that, and it has been suggested, and I'm totally in favor for it, that perhaps legislation be requested next year for that change. But that's in the future, so unless my colleague here has any objections, I think we need the first three.
Okay.
The reason I say the first three, they're kind of recognized as been invited in past years rather regularly.
I have no objections.
So if you'll, Ms. Vance, if you will work that into the schedule.
Sure. I'll put Johansson on February and Marilyn Mallett on March and Sarah
Okay.
Brothers April.
Okay, well, that would be good. That's the earliest we can do it anyway, and
Yeah.
that would be fine. Do either of you inspectors have any report you'd like to make at this time? I understand that you completed your first session with certifications for TIPS, TAM, similar, and so forth. How'd it go?
we both came to the conclusion it went very well. There was no problems encountered. Both Mr. Dixon and Miss Vance both attended as guests, and I think they enjoyed it. It went smooth. They now know what a fake driver's license looks like. We talked about a lot of things. There was a lot of interaction between businesses, so I think went very well, Keith.
Yeah, no major hiccups. We did have some suggestions, things we want to add to the PowerPoint.
Certain things we're going to take out and move some slides around to make it flow a little bit easier, but on the whole, I was very pleased with it.
And how many did you have?
We had 9 paid and 2 freebies.
Oh,
Well, it had 11
I
total.
could figure out who the 2 freebies were, but anyway, do you have one scheduled in the future?
We are working on location, and it would probably be a Monday night that Lawrence wants to host. It would probably be held at Johansson's, but yes, we are working on a Monday night in February.
How long was class?
3 hours.
It was scheduled for 3 hours, and it lasted exactly 3 hours, so...
Now, when you say 3 hours, we got time to kill, or I wouldn't say what I'm gonna say. When
No,
you
it was
said 3
solid 3 hours.
Are you talking about 60-minute hours or like 50-minute hours, like
50-minute, 3 50-minute hours.
educators?
It was 2 10-minute breaks within that 3-hour period.
Oh, okay.
It was a solid 3 hours.
How about the participants? Did you find it fruitful?
I
It was
did.
good. It was both informational and entertaining.
And as independent observers, do you feel that it was educational and presented to the applicants what they needed to learn or be aware of from your perspective?
I think so.
Now, I'm gonna ask those guys just what I ask other instructors. When people come before this commission, when I ask if they touched on when they got TAM or tips about vertical license and sales to minors, was that thoroughly covered in your all's presentation?
Yes, there was. And there's also, we emphasized that it's a criminal violation to sell a minor that's under 21.
Good. Commissioner, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Hearing none, we're gonna take a 10-minute break.
impartiality with this case.
We are back in order. Ladies and gentlemen, if you all will be seated, we will proceed with case 6430. Please, Mr. Dixon.
Case 6430, an application for the transfer of a license to a new corporate entity and a change of licensee B for a Class BR, beer, wine, and liquor license open for one meal only to be issued to Stephen A. Eckerd and Thomas M. Burkhart for the use of Texas Roadhouse of Carroll County, MD LLC, trading as Texas Roadhouse, 21 South Cranberry Road, Westminster, Maryland, 21157 in Election District 7. To file this matter, we have the following documents. A, December 30th, 2022, notice of public hearing for this case. A December 23rd, 2022, notice of public hearing for this case. A December 19th, 2022 letter from India Phillips, Revenue Examiner 3, to the Board of License Commissioners. Matter has been brought to a satisfactory conclusion. Therefore, the Comptroller of Maryland Compliance Division withdraws its request to hold this transfer. There is a response to Joe Vance's request to various state and local agencies from Lisa Staley, Health Department. The above referenced establishment does meet the requirements of this office. There is a response to Joe Vance's request to various state and local agencies from Belinda Gassell, Collections Office. The above referenced establishment does meet the requirements of this office. Joe Vance sent a December 7th, 2022 letter to Miss India Phillips, Revenue Specialist. There is a December 7th, 2022 letter from Joe Vance to Mr. Stephen Eckerd. There's a December 2nd, 2022 letter from Leanne Schreckengoss to Joe Vance. And the letter includes an application, character references, a menu, CJIS information, a driving record, workers' comp insurance, a deed, corporate information, asset purchase, manager resolution, financial information, SDAT information, a deed, asset purchase agreement. I would ask that the file be entered into evidence.
We'll accept that into evidence. This time, I would ask all those who intend to testify in the case, please stand, raise your right hand, and be sworn in by Ms. Vance.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. All may be seated.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, prior to the start of this case, I would like to disclose that I am familiar with Mr. Eckerd. We did work at the same entity for a number of years. He no longer works at that entity. We didn't work even in the same town, same building. And I would like to just assure everybody that will not interfere with my impartiality on the decision-making, and I can make an informed decision on this case. Thank you.
With that said, you may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Madam Commissioner. Thank you very much for your disclosure. Tony and I had already had that discussion right before the hearing, so we were well aware of it. We're here for a transfer of the Texas Roadhouse liquor license. This is a franchise roll-up, so you will not see any change in the day-to-day operation of the business. The employees are remaining the same. In fact, Mr. Eckerd has been on this license since this place opened, and has been a longstanding, obviously, I'm sure both of you know him well, upstanding citizen here in Carroll County. But as I indicated, it's a franchise roll-up, so it's being purchased by the publicly traded company. And there's 10 Texas Roadhouses involved, 6 here in the state of Maryland, 4 in Delaware, are being rolled up. So it's just a formality change. It's basically a name change on paper. The legal entity is changing to Texas Roadhouse of Carroll County, MD, LLC. I can proffer for the board that both the applicants have a 10% ownership interest in that licensed entity, and both are authorized persons of that licensed entity. And as I indicated, there will be no change in the day-to-day operation. I do have a copy for the board. I'm sure they've probably had it in past files, but a copy of their internal alcohol awareness training program that I would like to admit as an exhibit. They have every person who gets hired goes through this intense responsible alcohol service training program upon hiring. And then any and all servers or managers who are involved in the sale or service of alcohol go through the TIPS state certified training program. So if I may admit this as an exhibit.
Please do.
We do our own.
I know you do. At this time, I have nothing further for the board. I didn't know if you wanted to go ahead and hear from the character witnesses.
Yes, please. If you would introduce yourself
You, sir. Okay.
and give your address.
It's Thomas Burkhart. My address is 111 Point Road, Stevensville, Maryland, 21666.
Mr. Burkhart, could you please tell the board what your role and responsibilities are with this location?
I'm actually a market partner with Texas Roadhouse. I have 11 locations that I help oversee it and run those stores.
Would you mind introducing your character witnesses?
sorry.
That's okay.
These
She
folks.
can come, just come up here, well, there's no chair there.
Sorry. There you go.
Well, Mike Allender, who you folks know, he's actually here. He's the local managing partner for the store here in Westminster. And Crystal Shank,
It's fine.
she
Shank. I
just
haven't
got
legally
married. I
changed
called
my
her the
name.
wrong last name, sorry. But she is a service coach, and she is in charge of all the front of the houses for all 11 stores.
Crystal, could you please state your full name and address for the record?
Yeah, absolutely. It's Crystal Shank, 12462 Randy Drive, Greencastle, PA 17225. I work for Tom as his service coach, so I oversee 11 stores for service and training. So I work hand in hand with our service managers to ensure that the responsible alcohol service courses that you see, along with our tips courses, are 100% in every one of our locations.
And how long have you known Mr. Burkhart?
5 years.
And do you believe that he will be a fit and proper person to hold this liquor license?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I turn it over to the commissioners for any, they might have questions for you.
Oh, I'm
Have
sorry.
any questions, Ms. Witness?
I do not, thank you.
I don't have any questions.
Please go ahead and state your name and address for the record.
It's good, it should be on.
Michael Allender, 3285 Charmel Drive, Manchester, Maryland, 21102.
And could you please tell the board what your role and responsibilities are at the restaurant?
I'm the managing partner. I oversee daily operations of the restaurant.
And how long have you known Mr. Burkhart?
5 years.
And do you also believe that he would be a fit and proper person to hold this liquor license?
Absolutely.
I have no further questions.
I have no questions.
I have no questions. How
Do you have
about the two gentlemen on your right, particularly that one?
This one right here? Would you please introduce yourself for the board?
Yes, I'm Granville Hibbard, 3314 Milldale Lane, New Windsor, Maryland, 21776.
Mr. Go ahead. How long have you known Mr. Eckert?
I've known Mr. Eckert personally since 1987, but I'd seen him before at the store.
Do you believe that he will continue to be a fit and proper person to hold this liquor license?
It's probably the finest Carroll County has to offer.
I have no further
No
questions.
questions.
Your handicap, Mr. Gibbard?
I was afraid you were going to ask that, 16.2.
Under oath too, remember that.
I rather imagine Leroy Ford would question that, however.
He always does, sir.
We'll take your word for that. Mr. Eckert, would you like to say anything?
Well, I just, Stephen Anthony Eckerd, 1251 Stone Road, Westminster, Maryland, 21158, also known as Tony Eckerd, or better known as Tony Eckerd. For the board's information, I've recently retired from Carroll County Public Library in October of 2022. I served there for 20 years as Director of Finance. Would want to know the board that I'm still active, very active in the community. I serve on the board of the Union Mills Homestead Foundation and also on the board of the ARC of Carroll County.
Any questions?
No questions.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chair. I turn it over to the board for deliberation.
Inspector Benford, do you have any comments to make?
No, every time they've been very good to work with. I do not believe they have any alcohol underage sales. And I've known Mike the 6 years I've been working as inspector.
Any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Burkhardt, I just have one question. It has nothing to do
Okay.
with the application per se. You used to be able to throw peanuts.
I knew that was coming.
My introduction to Texas Roadhouse was, Mr. Hibbert will appreciate this, many, many years ago, there used to be a 3-day Pro-Am golf tournament in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And the first evening we went for dinner was to a Texas Roadhouse across the street. And I thought when I walked in the door and crunched peanut shells on the floor, what kind of establishment is this? So with that, and that's, I'm going to say, I probably shouldn't say, but gee, Tim McCoy was still our pro at that time. So you know how long ago that's been. No throwing peanuts anymore.
Well, we still have peanuts available, but they're in bags now. We did have them on the table. At one point, you're right, there were peanuts everywhere. I've been with Texas Roadhouse, this is 25 years. So at one point, we did have peanuts everywhere. So then we went to 2 buckets on the tables, one for shells. We were trying to get everybody to put the shells in the extra bucket. That kind of worked, you know. And then unfortunately with the whole COVID situation, we thought nobody wants to put hands in peanuts anymore that are on tables. Even if so now we have bags of peanuts and we just have an empty bucket. So we're trying to get the folks, anybody who wants peanuts gets a bag, and I'm not going to tell you everybody throws their shells in the bucket, but it's there. So it's kind of an evolution of our peanuts process.
I was just curious, we're killing time because our next scheduled item, our next scheduled case is not till 11:30, and it's not even 11 o'clock yet, so has nothing to do with this, but we're killing time, and I could grill that pair of guys on your right, Miss Leanne, but I won't say anything about them.
Well, I can kill a little bit more time for you. May I give you a copy of the trader's license that we got this morning for the file?
I am a peanut fan, if that helps. So
Peanuts are good too, I might add.
I have where I live in Stevensville, Maryland, my garage is a tiki bar, and I can tell you I have a case of our peanuts in bags in there for anybody that comes over. So one of the things, there's a popcorn maker and a case of bagged Texas Roadhouse peanuts in my bar. I don't have any, you know what, I don't know where they throw the shells now that I'm thinking about it, so. Not sure.
Use them for mulch.
With that said, testimony and evidence is now closed. We'll proceed. If you have any closing comments.
I just think the testimony has shown that the applicants are fit and proper, and would ask that the board approve this transfer.
Dr. Benford, you have any closing comments?
I was going to ask about line dancing, but I mentioned that earlier, and
Well,
No.
you mean, I've never been in the one here that's had line dancing. Is that one?
in Hanover, they do line dancing in Hanover.
That's in North and Mason. Those people up there in Hanover, they're different. How about in Virginia? Do they do line dancing in Virginia?
We do.
We do.
But you don't do it in Maryland?
We have
We
some
just had this
stores.
discussion. This started earlier by chance. So came up just as a random, when we were all just signing the form and so on. And you know what? When we're done with the hearing, Have to ask Mike why we're not having line dancing in Westminster, so.
I foresee a line dancing class happening soon in his store.
Looks that way.
Where are you gonna line dance in Westminster?
We always line dance right there in front of the bar. I know it's small, but it only lasts for 1 minute. We don't do a whole song.
Well, I made a suggestion of have a bigger restaurant, so that might be coming for,
We don't want no poles in that restaurant.
Oh, we don't need that. No poles, nobody on
You
dancing
might
on
explain to
tables.
Miss Leanne what we're talking about, because I don't think she knows.
I completely know what you're talking about.
With that, all testimony and evidence is closed, and we now decide the merits of the case. Do you have any further questions, Commissioner?
I do not, sir.
You have a motion to make?
I do have a motion to make. I motion that we approve the application for the transfer of a license to a new corporate entity and a change of licensee B for a Class BR beer, wine, and liquor license, open for one meal only, to be issued to Stephen A. Eckerd and Thomas M. Burkhart for the use of Texas Roadhouse of Carroll County, trading as Texas Roadhouse, 21 South Cranberry Road, Westminster, Maryland, Election District 7.
I will second the motion. Motion's been properly made and seconded that we approve the application, and I'm not going to read all that again, of the applicant. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The ayes have it. Congratulations. Continued good luck.
Thank you.
Very much.
Very much.
We'll work on the line dancing.
You'll work on that. Thanks.
And I would suggest that perhaps our other inspector be invited to your first line dancing class.
I've got 2 left feet, so I don't think that's going to work.
Well, you'll get the British version of that if you get him.
We do it in squares.
That might cause an accident with the other one.
G
Thank
and
you very
Tony?
much. Have a good one.
Thanks, have a
Thank you, Miss Leanne.
It was nice meeting you guys. Nice meeting you.
Good luck. Thank you. Good luck. Good to see you guys. Pardon?
Take care.
Yes, I haven't played for 6-7 years though.
Yes, I'm really playing now to try to keep playing, because when I stop, I can't anymore. I can barely, when I can't get the ball out of the hole anymore or whatever, I'm done.
You got one of them putters, right?
Yeah.
Take care.
Good to see you. Could
we start our own alcohol management?
call Mr. Patel and ask him if he can come early?
let me ask the question. Did he not present this to us? Is this the same presentation we had?
No.
But this is a
This is-
similar request?
It's similar. He told me that they wanted to be able to deliver primarily because they have a lot of elderly customers. And there's apparently steps up into there.
Just reach out, guys. Awesome. Thank you.
It's not the guy who talked about delivering and also that other service.
Okay, we're gonna take another 10-minute break. Okay, Matt, we're back in session. This time I would ask our attorney, Mr. Dixon, to call case 6431, please.
All right, case 6431, in the matter of a Class BR beer, wine, and liquor license open for one meal only, issued to Thomas C. Hutchinson and Michael V. Long for the use of Enola Inc., trading as Nook Cafe and Restaurant, 6212 Ridge Road, Mount Airy, Maryland, 21771, violation hearing sale to a minor. In the file of this matter, we have the following documents. A December 12, 2022, letter from Joe Vance to Thomas C. Hutchinson and Michael V. Long about the violation. A alcohol compliance violation sheet signed by James Pullen, dated December 9th, 2022. And a notice of violation for selling alcohol to persons under 21 on the letterhead of Brian L. DiLeonardo, and it was completed by a Thomas Eric Zimmerman. I would ask that the file be entered into evidence.
We'll accept that into evidence. This time I would ask all those who intend to testify, please stand and raise your right hand and be sworn in by Ms. Vance.
Do you swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
May be seated. Would request that as you testify, please state your full name and address for the record, please. With that, Inspector.
Good morning. Jim Pullen, Liquor Inspector for the Board of License Commissioners for Carroll County, 225 North Center Street, Westminster, Maryland. Case is on the 9th of December 2022 at approximately 2:50 p.m., which was a Friday, I sent an underage volunteer who was 17 years old into Nook's Cafe with the intention to purchase an alcoholic beverage. The volunteer sat at the table within the sunroom of that building and was served a Coors beer, originally from a can, which the server Thomas Zimmerman poured into a glass. Upon my arrival, I spoke to the server, informing him that the person he had served was a minor, and I asked him whether he had checked that person's ID, and he told me that he had got distracted, so I take it that he hadn't. He also told me that he knew it was an offense to serve a minor an alcoholic beverage, and he stated that he had done a alcohol service class about 3 years previously. And all the above occurred in Mount Airy, Carroll County, Maryland. And I'd like to make a submission of photographs to the board.
Have they been shown to?
They have, yes.
We'll accept them into evidence. With that, who would like to tell their side of the story? What happened?
I can do that. My name is Brian Knuckles, and my address is 9410 Highlander Court in Walkersville, Maryland, 21793. In early December, we informed our employees.
How do you spell your last name?
Oh, Knuckles. Nuckols.
You may proceed. Go ahead.
in early December, just to preface this, in early December, we informed our employees, due to lack of sales, that we were going to be closing. The idea that he didn't card an employee and that he was distracted is, I will say on our part, absolutely ridiculous. That place was nowhere near the capacity that he should have been distracted in any way. I can only say that I believe that he thought that he would just make some cash wherever he could before the holiday closed. We gave the employees the notice that we were going to close up after the new year. And with that, after this occurred, we did fire him that day. And we, without the coverage of servers and knowing that we were going to close in the future, we did close after that weekend, not employing that employee through the weekend. And we did turn in our liquor license the week following, I believe, somewhere around there. But we did not open up after that weekend was done. But that employee was fired that day.
How long was that employee employed by you?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
And how long has the restaurant been open?
We did do a changeover. It's been about 3 years, and we did do a changeover. It originally was Brick Ridge, and it was changed over to Nook Cafe and Restaurant for about a year. We had, over that 3 years with COVID and everything, we had major issues with staffing. I think my first year, I had full changeover in cooking staff 3 times. And that, it wasn't that we weren't paying them right, it's just that the place wasn't moving enough for people to really enjoy their jobs there. I think the employment had always been an issue. And I mean, obviously, I had people begging me to stay open. Yeah, and I wanted to keep it open till Christmas, even though we were losing money. And after this, I said, it's a no-go. You broke the trust, we're done here. And that's how we proceeded with after this.
Did you have a training program for your employees?
Yes.
And what type of training was it?
We had a general manager, Logan Hunter, there for a while, and as well as other employees that were TIPS certified. They would train them on everything that they would need to do their job. I will say that you were required to ask ID of anybody purchasing alcohol. The idea that anybody, that place was not busy enough to not ask for an ID by any means. And he should have. That's just blatant.
Did you accept vertical IDs at all?
We do not accept vertical IDs at all.
And how many of your employees were either TIPS or TAM certified?
At that point, it's hard because there was an exodus of employees, knowing I wanted to give them the opportunity to work and make money till Christmas, and I had a massive decrease in employees. I think towards the end, I think I had 2 servers. It wasn't anything. I would say I'm TIPS certified, and I was typically there on site. Beyond that, I think we had, I know that he said that he was TIPS certified maybe 3 years before, but the other TIPS certification employee that we had, Thomas Zimmerman. Thomas Zimmerman? He's Thomas Zimmerman.
Neubauer.
Sorry. Samuel Neubauer, yes. He was TIPS certified, as well as a Thomas Zimmerman. I believe that's not the individual there, right?
Yeah, Thomas Zimmerman was the person who did it.
I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the employee, but he left 3 days prior to that, and he was also TIPS certified. So I had more than 50% of my staff TIPS certified. Yeah.
And the restaurant is closed at the present time?
We closed following that weekend. This happened on a Friday. That employee was fired that day, and the 2 servers we had with limited coverage, not even enough to run the restaurant. I said, you guys can work through the weekend, and then after that, we closed it. We were typically Wednesday through Sunday, and we closed after that. We did employ cooks for another 2 weeks to help clean up, get to Christmas, get some money. But all the servers, I said, nope, out the window, we're done.
Have you had any violations prior to this one?
No, in my 12 years of managing Nook and Cafe Nola in downtown Frederick, overseeing both locations, not once under my watch.
So you manage another location in Frederick as well?
Yes, I oversee Cafe Nola in Frederick and Nook Cafe. I was the chief of operations, and I also had a general manager under me that was there.
Any questions?
Yes, were you there the day that this happened?
No,
And did he tell you he did not check ID, or did he tell anyone? It was kind of ambiguous to our inspector. Did he tell anyone whether he had or not?
he did. I'm sorry. Can you ask me that again?
Did he tell anybody that he did check ID or did not check
No,
ID?
he did not check ID.
He just didn't even check?
Blatant. Nope.
And how many people were in the restaurant at the time?
Couldn't tell you. I don't think that there was. Yeah, you can speak to that. You were
I
there.
was going to say, can you speak to that, Jim?
Yes. Upon my arrival, there was one other vehicle in the car park, and when I sent my volunteer in, 4 senior citizens came out. When I went to the restaurant, there was no one else in the restaurant apart from my volunteer.
So I guess your theory is his distraction was the fact that he was going to lose his job eventually?
I can only imagine that under the circumstances that he was just trying to get money. And at that point, I said, we're done here. If I can't trust you all to do the bare minimum of your job, then the trust is out the window, and I can't manage a place where trust is out the window.
What would the price of that beer been?
Probably $5.
It was a draft, if I remember the photos
It
right.
was a Coors can that he poured
It
into
would have been
Can
poured from a
Oh,
can.
it was a Coors
Yes.
can?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we do
poured.
not have anything on tap there.
You have any other questions?
I do not have any other questions.
What's your position with the establishment?
Technically, it's chief of operations.
Is the,
That's for Enola, right?
Yes.
are you the liquor licensee? Are you-
Yes.
Okay. And your name?
Michael Long.
Thank you.
Mr. Long, how much time did you spend at the restaurant?
Honestly, not a lot. Brian's been with me managing for, like I said, 12 years. He's a very good manager. And I'll tell you the truth, I think since the pandemic, it's been incredibly hard to keep talented individuals with awareness able to, do their jobs. We've had tremendous turnaround. And like I said, we run a very successful restaurant in Frederick. We've had no violations. And, the last 4 years, we've seen in both restaurants just a tremendous turnaround of staff. And so when we're talking about tip certification and everything, it's very difficult to plan that when you have people that are rotating in and out over and over again. And it's one of our decisions to close the restaurant is mainly keeping talented and focused individuals. And that includes waiters and chefs and managers. It's been very, very difficult. And I think this was one of the fallbacks of it.
Any questions?
I don't have any other questions.
Dr. Pullen, do you have any other comments?
No, sir, that would be my case.
If there are no other questions, testimony is closed, and we will proceed to final arguments and comments. Do either of you gentlemen have any final comments?
As far as I'd like to note, we did talk with Keith Benifer about this. As far as I know, never going to try to obtain another liquor license
Yeah,
in
at this
Carroll
point, I
County
don't think there's,
ever again. I think he's getting out of the game.
4 years has been enough. The last 4 years.
And I don't think that there's ever going to be another liquor license obtained by Michael Long or myself in Carroll County.
That said, Inspector Pullen, do you have any final comments?
No, the restaurant was a very nice restaurant, and I was surprised that this incident had happened. This was the first check first compliance check since it had opened, and I was just driving by and coming from another establishment, and we just stopped off, and this happened. So it was unexpected, and I know people who were or members of staff who worked at the establishment, and it looked great, and I feel sorry that it's closed down.
There are no other comments. Testimony is closed, and we will now deliberate the merits of the case. The license was turned in how long afterwards?
Probably like that Wednesday or Thursday. It was 3 or 4 days later. I mean, but we talked before then, and I knew it was coming, and he said he decided to close, so.
Have any comments, questions?
I would just like to point out, I empathize with your situation, having been a restaurant owner in the past in this county and luckily sold before COVID. We hear this a lot, that there are challenges with staffing and employees that are willing to do what's right. Unfortunately, a minor was served. So that's the take from all of that. I don't know if maybe better management of the employees in that last month might have helped. Again, a minor was served. So that being said, if you don't have any comments, I'd be prepared to make a motion.
I don't have any further comments.
Okay, so in the matter of case 6431 for Class B beer, wine, and liquor license issued to Thomas Hutchinson and Michael Long for the use of Enola Incorporated, trading as Nook Cafe and Restaurant, I do find you culpable of the violation of sale to a minor, and I would impose a fine of $300.
I would second the motion. Motion's been properly made and seconded that we find the licensee culpable and assess a fine of $300 to Thomas C. Hutchison and Michael V. Long for the use of Enola Inc., trading as Nook Cafe and Restaurant at 6212 Ridge Road, Mount Airy, Maryland. Culpable, and issue a fine of $300. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. So ordered. Gentlemen, we find you culpable and assess a $300 fine, which must be paid, satisfied within 30 days of official notice of the action of this commission. You have any questions?
Where do we pay that? Can we pay that in this building?
You pay it to Ms. Vance.
Okay, great,
to her.
thank you. And that's
We're
it?
sorry that business prevailed and caused the closing of your establishment, but wish you much success, continued success, I guess I should say, in Frederick. And I guess,
Thank you.
Thank you.
as you said, we don't expect to see you here again, but you never know what might happen, but thank you for your candid answers and best wishes for continued success.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much. Now, we can get back to our routine business meeting. Inspector Pullen, is he coming back in?
I believe so.
Okay, at this time, we will go back to our official business agenda. And there's a request from Ravu Patel of City Spirits to make deliveries and do online orders with shipping. At this time, I guess we need sworn testimony? No? No. Your name and address, sir?
Dhruva Patel. Store address or the address is
Either one.
208 East Ridgeville Boulevard, Mount Airy, Maryland 21771.
And what is your request?
So we had, after seeing the business and how a lot of our customer base, we have a lot of older folks coming in, and their biggest complaint is, you know, there's the trip over, going up the stairs, taking everything downstairs. And we do as much as we can to help. We take things out, but we have quite that's a large part of our demographic. And so we really want to add in a delivery service to kind of streamline everything, save them a trip, and just provide better service for the community.
You have a Class A license, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're located on the second floor, is that what you're saying?
It's not on the second floor. It's just from the parking lot to the store. There's every method is a flight of steps.
They're across from where the old Green Turtle was in Mount Airy. And the park, and it slopes down, so the parking lot is probably 8 steps.
Yeah, the shortest, it's
Climb
8
up
steps. There's some parts where it's like 12, 15 steps to go up, then take it back down. It becomes a lot. I have this one lady, she gets 10 cases of natural light every other week, and I have to do that. You know, it's no problem. I don't have no problem, but I take it out for her, and I only imagine that when she gets home, how is she getting these 10 cases into her house? I mean,
You have a single customer that buys 10 cases.
yeah, 10 cases of natural light 18 packs. She does it every couple weeks. Then I have another guy, he just got heart surgery. He comes in, he gets 2 18 packs of Bud Light for himself, 2 18 packs of natural light for his son, and sometimes he gets bottles for his wife, like I believe it's Amsterdam, and they also like Bold Rock 18 packs. So he's getting all these items, and I always carry it out for him because, I mean, he's a little more on the elderly side. He has a heart surgery and everything. So, but again, on the flip side, who's helping him take all this stuff into his house, or is he doing it all himself?
Have any questions?
So what would be your method for confirming IDs?
So we have in place a couple of different options. So for the delivery itself, there is 2 methods, potential methods, both of which would require our employee from the store to be the delivery driver, a tip certified employee, of course. That those 2 methods are either a website or the Drizzly app, which is already being used in about 20 counties around Maryland. Now, in both of these case scenarios, the customer would have to create an account with the app or website, and in that account creation, there's a photo identification. It's a verification beforehand. So let's say Mr. Browning creates an account. It would have his first name, last name, address, and then he would have to upload a picture of his ID that confirms the same information. And that way, at the point of sale online, we know beforehand that, okay, this order is coming from someone who's 21 years old. And then on the flip side of it, we're still at the point of delivery. We will still request ID to make sure that whoever placed the order is the individual that is indeed picking up the order.
So as the devil's advocate here, so like a teenager could get mom's ID and put it on the app.
And
But when you deliver it, it has to be that person that you saw on the website.
Yep. Even if it's another individual who's just to prevent any kind of mishaps, even if it's another individual, right? Let's say they're both 21. I would still require that the person who placed the order be the person that picks it up. There's no ifs, ands, or nothing to get around that. If for some reason they can't accept it, or it's someone underage trying to, pull a quick one, just cancel the order, refund the money, and take it back.
Does the initial ID have to be a driver's license?
Yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure the way you said it, whether it could be a license or just a photo or
Oh,
something.
sorry, yes, it would be a driver's license.
Are you aware that we have a alcoholic beverage delivery form that has been approved by this board?
No, I'm not aware.
That form requires, I'm just gonna go over it with you. The name of the establishment, the order date, the delivery date, the time ordered, and the time it was delivered. The name of the customer, the phone number, and the delivery address. In addition, a driver's license or other government-issued photo ID is required of the recipient. State of the license, information that's on the license, such as the date of birth and the address. The delivery form requires the brand, size, and quality of beverages to be delivered. The total amount must exceed $100.
All right.
There's a certification here that the person who receives it has to sign it. The delivery driver has to sign it. And that delivery driver must be an employee of your establishment and be TIPS or TAM certified. This has been issued and approved for a few other establishments in the county. We do not allow online delivery, as you mentioned, from whatever you said. What's the name of the?
The Drizzly app.
We do not condone the Drizzly Act.
Okay. So we could always just go through our website and have a direct orders placed through there, and then go with that, follow the form per delivery.
Do you have that same setup where there has to be the driver's license put in, and that's what you see so they would upload the license even if they ordered through your website?
Create an account, upload the license. At that point, we should have all the information required to be able to fill out that form for you.
How do you ascertain whether that's a valid license or whether it's a fake ID?
So in this case, we would have them upload it, and that it's almost operating on good faith at the beginning, but at the point of delivery, we have the service where we can go ahead and scan the ID, right? So we'll have a method in which we can scan the ID and verify.
Your delivery driver's gonna scan ID?
Yes.
He has a portable thing with him?
Yes.
You have that now?
With me currently? No, I do not.
No, I mean, do you have it at the store now?
Yes.
You do?
I don't have any further questions.
I would be amenable that we approve delivery under the circumstances that we have already established for other establishments to conform with their requirements and this delivery form. I'm not in favor of any online ordering or IDs.
So you're saying even the website, even their own personal business website, you're not, so what, the person would call in? I can see his point where initially they know by the information provided to them that a person of the right age, over 21, has ordered this. If they take an order over the phone and then show up there, they're not necessarily verifying that the same person made the order. You understand? So they can verify that, like, say someone calls in and says, yeah, so we'll deliver. And then they get there, and then there's a random person who's over 21 accepting the delivery with ID, but it's not the same person that ordered it.
Basically, all he's doing is what it says on this, except he has in advance a photo ID, whether it's correct or whether it's
Correct.
fake or who it is.
Right. But as he says, once he gets there, he can say, this same person has to take it too.
I understand that. However, common practice might be, and this is what bothers me, that delivery person says, okay, I'm looking at that photo, this is the same person. I'm not gonna bother to look at it. I'm just gonna sign this form and get them to sign the form.
Good point.
Now, if I may, that's one of those things that's very strict. It's going to be the same as you're in the store. You don't hand over any alcohol without seeing an ID first. It does not matter if this person you've delivered to them 20 times. You must see the ID. If you don't see the ID, that's a large liability on all ends, and that at that point you could lose your job. So that's a very strict thing for me. At the store and in delivery, it will be the same level, if not even more. I mean, can't really get more strict. Every single transaction, I need the ID.
Did you have a recent in-store violation?
No.
No? Okay.
Have you ever had any violations?
No, sir.
In how many years?
I mean, we've only been established for, say,
6 months?
5, 6 months, yeah.
I knew you were familiar, and I couldn't remember at what, so it was when you came to get your license in the
And
first place.
You just
Okay.
moved, right?
Yes, yes.
You heard what
I absolutely, and I take, so this form gets filled out every time and then what, filed and then given to us or available to us if we ask?
It's available to us if we ask, and
With a copy of the receipt.
With a copy of the receipt.
the few instances that we've had, as well as when COVID was here and restaurants were able to deliver and so on and so forth, which a few of them still are eligible to do. One of the inspectors has been requested to check the logs that they keep and verify that information. That's what we have done since it's been available.
So hearing his side of it, I agree with the fact that it could get overlooked if you thought you had an approval before, just to say, okay, yeah, that's right. Where this form forces you to write everything down at point of sale. When you're there in front of the person, and you're right, they could just say, oh, well, my order has that on it, so I'll just copy it over. Things happen. So I agree with you that a call-in order, or at some point, and then take this form and fill it out, and then all the information gets put on this upon transfer of the liquor to or the alcohol to the buyer. I would be agreeable with that.
Well, a call-in order, you could still make a call-in order.
Right.
But ensuring that the person is 21 or older upon receipt by actually checking that ID, just like they do in the store now. I think, and Inspector Benfer or Ms. Vance or Mr. Dixon, correct me, this has only been in force for less than a year, correct?
Technically, no, that rule's been in effect for as long as I can remember.
We just approved it, what'd we say, in February? Not
Yes,
February.
that was the first one we approved,
That was
yes.
the first one we approved. And it was it's my recollection that at the end of the year, we were to see what the results were,
Okay.
in case any changes needed to be made because of this. My particular request would be that you've only been in business for, what, 6 months?
Yes.
That until we get some history of conformance with rules and regulations, that I would be so inclined to approve what I just said based upon this application.
Can I make some suggestions and comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I do like the idea of the online, because there will be some information put online that we can track easier than someone calling in and filling out a form. He could have the online form, and then I would have a form to match that online information.
And a photograph of it.
And a photograph of the license compared to someone calling in that I don't know they called in on, so I have no way to track to make sure there's a form for that when the person called in. On the other flip side, another thing is, we cannot give him authorized by a board, we cannot authorize him to go deliver into Howard County.
Oh, yeah, of course not.
It's only, he can only deliver into into Carroll County, or you can't, into Montgomery, whatever. Being in Mount Airy, you would have to make sure, also, the addresses you put on, I could verify those addresses, make sure they're in Carroll County.
Well, the
So
address is on here.
What was that?
The address is on this form.
Correct. But I like the idea I can compare it to the online form to make sure there's that form filled out. Also, is $100 all right with you? It has to be a minimum order of $100?
So that's one of the questions I had. $100, at that point, we would still get use out of the service, but if there was a potentially, my average ticket seems to be around the $50, $60, $70 mark. So if I could get it to the 50, then I would be able to, for instance, like the Mr. Linhaw, for example, the individual who gets the 2 buds and the 2 natural lights, and he's usually around about $50 to $60, whereas
I think the $100 is what we talked about, and how other establishments agree to $100. I think you would have to have a $100.
That's fine. I could.
And I think people, if they realize that, then they're going to be ordering 3 weeks worth or 4 weeks worth compared to 2 weeks worth.
Yeah, fair enough. It could still, it wouldn't be an issue.
I just like the idea with the online order, it's something I can compare to than someone calling in, which they can still do. I know I'm looking for, all right, this online order was January 12th. I won't find a form that says January 12th too.
And we would have an online sale log, so you could directly compare, okay, you had 150 online sales, where are your 150 forms? It would be in sequential order, easy to compare.
You think it's profitable for you to deliver for less than $50?
It wouldn't be as profitable as 100 for sure, $100 minimum. I think if you are building in a delivery fee that covers your overall delivery cost, right? So basically gas.
So you're going to charge more?
It'd be a marginal fee. It wouldn't be a ridiculous amount.
What do you think?
I think he definitely should be allowed to do it, as others have been, abiding by the form and its fill out. I guess the questionable thing is whether we're ready to go into the new age of online. Like I said in the very beginning, it's the way everything is done these days, unfortunately. But I also agree with you that it could allow things to slip under the carpet if they decide not to actually check the ID because they already have one. So you understand our thought process there? You know, if the driver's like, oh, well, I already have all this information, I'll just copy this over, I don't really need to see, and
Well, and also, if he's going to scan the ID at the end of the sale, there should be a log with that ID scan to match that paperwork, to match that online order.
correct, but then that changes whether he's gonna make it the same person who makes the order. Because if he scans somebody else's license, but they're over 21, then it's okay. He stated earlier he would make it be the same
All
person.
right, I mean, you have to eventually, you have to trust the employees working, that
Oh,
doing the right
absolutely,
thing. I mean,
absolutely.
there's always ways around everything, and
Right.
I don't want to, we can't regulate everything, because again, who says that person's 21, walks up and gets 21, and gets 2 cases of beer, and walks out to the parking lot, takes one in his car, one in the other buddy's car that's 19?
Right.
That happens. I mean, we can't, but we have to trust his employees to keep an eye out and sell someone who's 21.
So what would you think if it was just his online, not getting a third party like Drizzly? Because I think if you open the door to Drizzly, I think
I don't-
that would be a whole nother problem in itself.
To satisfy my question, as long as that ID that you get online matches the address and the ID that you delivered to, I'm good with that. But not take my ID at 123 Main Street and I want it to deliver to 456 Maple Avenue. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, that,
That makes absolute sense.
So you have to be a Carroll County resident to order. You can't be like a visitor
Right.
in Carroll
Right,
County
right.
and make the order, because your ID isn't gonna match the address.
that's the address.
And the address has to be in Carroll County.
Where do these people live? They live in Carroll County that you spoke of, or do they cross the line to Frederick?
They live in Carroll County.
Carroll County? So, we will approve this request, subject to completion of the delivery form and all the pertinent information that's required with a $100 minimum.
Okay.
And with online ordering, as long as it's only his website. Is that,
His website and the address of the photo that you get online must match the address that you deliver to.
absolutely.
And the purchase of a scanner.
Yes.
And the purchase with a scanner.
Yes, at the time of delivery, yep,
Yeah.
we would be scanning the ID.
Ms. Vance, do you have all of that?
Yeah.
Do we need to put that in the form of a motion, sir?
You don't have to. We discussed it. It's gonna be in the minutes.
Okay? You understand what we're approving?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? How many employees do you have at the present time?
Just one employee. It's just me.
Who's
and one
gonna
other
man the store
individual.
while you're delivering?
So that's the thing. We're looking to get a third employee. Well, right now, technically it is 3. We have my father, he comes in, he helps. Now, we would look to get a third, and that way we would always have 2 people at the store at the same time. And basically whoever, so me and the current employee he's stuck around for a while, for the reason being that he is very diligent in making sure that he gets the IDs, and he's not someone where you have to worry like, okay, this guy's going to cut corners. And so it'd be either me or him making the delivery. And you know, whoever's newer would be kind of just in the store.
You
and-
understand that delivery person has to be TIPS or TAM certified?
Mhm. He's tip certified.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Okay, one other thing I would like to, and this doesn't have to go in the minutes. I'd like a report in 6 months.
Okay.
As to number of deliveries and so on and so forth, and all the pertinent information that we're asking. Okay? Any other questions? If not,
No, sir.
we wish you good luck and keep us posted on the success or non-success of this, okay?
All right, will do.
Keith, does he have an app? Do you
No,
have?
I don't.
Here,
I'll give him that. I'll give him more.
give him that one, get some more for him.
Hindsight 2020, not sure if it's pretty more at this point.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Sounds good.
Go ahead.
I'll talk tomorrow.
Is there any other information, any other agenda items or business to come before us this month? Ernie Dixon, do you have any comments? Closing comments, closing arguments? None?
No, sir.
With that said, our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, February the 8th at 10 o'clock in this room. Do I hear a motion?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion's been properly made. This meeting is adjourned.